Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Serena for anybody who's new here. Today I'm going to be doing a video talking about my new grad nurse orientation experience. So I did a video similar to this one probably 2 months ago when I was in the middle of my orientation. I was doing day shift at the time, and yeah, I just kind of talked about my experience so far, which that was probably maybe a month and a half into it. And then I finished my orientation, which was another month and a half. So my orientation was 3 months, in just about 3 months total. And I've been off of orientation for about probably a month now, and I'm doing full night shifts. So the majority, I'd say the first 2/3 of my orientation was day shift, and then the last third of it was night shifts, and then I hopped into night shifts, and I've been doing that since. So yeah, I am 4 months into my career, I guess you could say, just about, and I want to talk about my experience so far. So let's hop right into the video. Okay, so starting off, I had a couple different preceptors in my orientation, which I enjoyed because I got to see how a couple different people organize their days and just kind of how like their workflow went. And so I took a couple of strategies that I learned from different people and then use that to try and make my own workflow and see what works for me best. So I got to do kind of trial and error on orientation with the different nurse preceptors, and then towards the end I was starting to figure out what really worked for me. And at the end of orientation I was mostly on my own, just having a preceptor who was around at all times to help me. So I think that so far it's been going pretty well. There have definitely been some struggles, definitely ups and downs, and I've felt very challenged at times, and then there are times where work goes so smoothly. So you definitely walk into a new situation every day, and I feel like that's something that's very unique about this job, is you never know what you're walking into. Like, I have friends who work and their job, they're like working on projects all the time, so they're walking into their day and they know like what they need to accomplish that day, and you always know what you need to accomplish is taking care of like your patient assignment. However, you're working with new people almost every day, which makes it very interesting and makes you have many highs and lows in the job. And yeah, I feel like being off of orientation hasn't been too much different from when I was like at the last half of my orientation, because there are still always people to refer to, and I have a very supportive work environment, which is awesome. So if I ever have any questions, it's similar to having a preceptor who's sitting around kind of there in case I have questions. I can go and ask like the charge nurse, or you know, a nurse who might be like in the same area as I am. I can just kind of go walk over and ask them a question real quick, run something by them, or you know, page the doctors if I'm ever questioning something that's huge. I feel like if you're ever in doubt about a decision you're gonna make, or if you're ever unsure of like what step to take next, it's so important to just ask questions. And sometimes I feel like I am like sounding silly, bothering people with questions all the time, but that's how I'm learning. And there are some situations where I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't really need to ask that, but I'm glad I did. And there are some questions where I'm like, wow, I'm so happy I asked that, because I would have never have maybe taken that route, or maybe there was like a sudden change in like a patient condition, and I'm so happy I consulted whoever I talked to, whether it be like the nurse or the nurse practitioner or the doctor. So yeah, definitely just kind of overcoming that like awkwardness of being like, oh, excuse me, I have another question, I'm sorry. But yeah, just kind of overcoming that and knowing that that is always the best route to take. So I of course feel a little bit obligated to mention COVID, because it is a lot more prevalent in my workplace and in my day-to-day shifts than it was when I started, especially orientation. Since I got off orientation and I'm on my own now, I've been dealing with it a lot more than I was. So that definitely has created some challenges in my career, and it has been discouraging at times. Not discouraging to like any concerning point by any means, but it's just a heavy thing to deal with, and I am excited for it to be over, and I'm excited for everybody to be healthy, and hopefully we can overcome this, and 2021 will be a lot better of a year in terms of the pandemic. But yeah, it definitely has been challenging, especially working nights too, adapting to working nights and adjusting to this weird sleep schedule and not really getting much sleep, because that has been something that's hard for me. It's just getting enough sleep while adjusting to the night shift, because I only have really been doing night shift for about a month now. It takes a little while to get used to it for sure. So just kind of being on a lack of sleep while starting my career and adjusting to the new workplace, and then as well adjusting to working up front in the pandemic has been a lot for me. But I think that on a really positive note, I've realized how good I am at adapting to new situations. And I think my new grad friends who are also new grad nurses would agree with me in saying that once you get off orientation and you're working on your own, you really have a realization that, wow, I can do this. And once you are thrown out into the waters, you really do swim as much as you might think that you're gonna sink, because I thought I was gonna sink. And to be honest, my orientation was very helpful, but I don't really think that coming off of orientation, I was like, wow, I am so ready to do this. I'm so ready to be on my own, and I feel 100% prepared, because I never felt 100% prepared coming off orientation. Just as my coworkers who I talked to, they were like, yeah, I still felt like I needed a lot longer of a time to adjust and learn everything on this floor. However, all of us would definitely agree that once you're on your own, you really are forced to adjust and adapt, and you will surprise yourself and you'll shock yourself at how well you will do that, which is something that's very encouraging, and it's very motivating just to kind of realize, especially after you have a more difficult shift and you come off of your shift, you come home and you deal with any emotions that may be involved with the situation that you went through. Then you kind of sit down and you're like, okay, I just had this very challenging shift, and I was faced with something that was not predicted to happen, or something that was like a sudden change in someone's condition, and I dealt with it the right way, and I overcame that obstacle, and I'm here now, and I survived it, and I did the right things, and I had the right resources, and I had a lot of support in the situation. So coming off of hard shifts, as much as that can be difficult, it is also something that's motivating, because you're like, wow, I did it, and I'm on my own, and I did it by myself. Especially being like pretty fresh off of orientation, when I have a difficult shift and I come home, I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I did that. And I didn't even have someone who is like in that, like I had a whole support system, you know, on the floor, and the charge nurse, whoever had to be involved in it, but like I was the primary nurse and I did it, and everyone is hopefully okay. So that is something that is definitely a positive that comes out of the negatives. And I feel like with this job, you definitely need to look for the positives in your more difficult situations, although it might not be in the situation where you're trying to find these positives. But coming home and reflecting and dealing with your emotions is something that's very important, because you will have highs and you will have lows, but that's just part of the job. And as unpredictable as this job may be, it keeps it very interesting, and it's very fast paced, and you are constantly learning and impressing yourself with what you are capable of accomplishing. So that's very important with this job. And I do want to mention too that just because I was mentioning the more low parts of the job, I want to make it very clear that I like my job very much. I definitely do not regret the career path that I went into, and this job, as difficult as it can be, as difficult as it can be, it's very rewarding. And having those special connections too with your patients, not with all you're not going to be able to have like an emotional or like a very deep connection with all of your patients, because you just have so many patients, and that's pretty much impossible. But you know, those patients that you do have that really nice connection with makes it so incredibly rewarding. Just coming off of a shift and just knowing that you helped someone, especially for 12 hours, you know, you're just helping people get better, and then seeing them be discharged and be able to go home and go back to their families makes it so incredibly rewarding. And yeah, I just want to make that so clear that this job is so rewarding, more than I thought it was going to be before I went into it. And I think this job too can be a very emotional job, in good ways and in bad ways, because you know, when you have a hard time or your hard shift, or you have to like debrief from something that can be like a heavy emotional experience, that's why I said that it's always very important to make sure you deal with your emotions, because you do not want to bury these emotions. You want to deal with them and then move forward from them, but then you also have those very positive emotions where you see some really good outcomes and you see patients recovering and, like I said, going home to their families, and that is something that is amazing to see, and it's amazing to know that you were a part of that and you were very influential in that situation. So yes, I very much enjoy nursing and I'm excited to see where it takes me. I currently work on like a very general like medical floor. I don't want to get too deep into like my job specifics because yeah, just for like the privacy of work and everything, but I'm excited to see where my career takes me. I think that where I'm starting right now is a great position to learn a lot in, and I think I mentioned this in one of my videos, but working on like a very general medical floor or like, you know, a telemetry kind of floor is a place that's great for starting, because you learn so much of like the basics. Yeah, I say basics very lightly, but you know, like general like nursing like foundational skills, so that moving forward wherever you want to move in your nursing career, you have a really strong solid foundation. So that's something that's also very important to keep in mind. But yeah, orientation as a whole was a very positive experience for me, and I am happy to say that I'm happy I'm off of orientation, and I was very intimidated ending orientation and starting on my own just a couple of weeks ago. But now that I have been on my own for a little while, I feel like I've gained already so much strength and confidence in the clinical setting as an independent nurse, and I think that's something that's important to share, because people who are going to be going through these situations or who may be going through them right now, I just want to say that you can totally do it and you will impress yourself with what you're capable of, and that's very encouraging and very motivating. So yeah, I don't really know if I like went on a rant, you know, in this whole video. I hope it flows and makes a decent amount of sense, and that some people find it helpful and encouraging, because this is a great profession to start in, or this is a great profession to work in as a whole, and there are just so many opportunities that you have being a nurse and so many ways that you can branch out and like work in different areas while still working as an RN in general. So yeah, it's the beauty of the career. You can work anywhere, and there are so many jobs out there too right now who need nurses, because I'm assuming that whoever's watching this video is in this field. We have a very important career, and it's very nice to know that you're making a difference every single day you go into work, and that's not something that everybody can say. So yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see any more videos like this, definitely let me know in the comments or on any of my social medias. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.